Hey guys, Joe sitting here coming at you with day 2 of my trip to New Orleans, the land of 1,000 NSVs. But day 2 was centered around our flight, the flight tour of New Orleans. And we were lucky that my girlfriend's sister had bought a Groupon for a flight tour of New Orleans. She had never used it, and she was generous enough to give it to us for our trip. So we had to be at the flight academy around 10 a.m. that morning. The weather was a little bit iffy, so we had a little bit of a delay on takeoff, waiting for permission to take off. And I have an incredible fear of heights, and I didn't know how I was going to react. My girlfriend was certain that I was going to scream like a girl at some point during the flight. I've never flown anything smaller than a 200 to 300 person jet, like a 727. So this is my first time to ride in a single engine aircraft that is basically a go-kart with a propeller on the front of it. The really nerve-wracking parts were the takeoff and landing, because the pilot allowed my girlfriend to do both. She's a very take-charge kind of person, and she leaped at the opportunity. Here we are at the little airport in New Orleans. Gonna do a flight over New Orleans, a flight tour in this little blue Cessna. You see my pilot, he's out there checking the plane, doing the routine checks. I'm just out here kind of killing time before flight time in about 40 minutes or so. Never been up in a single engine plane. Actually, never been up in any plane other than a 727 jet. This is going to be a scary first. So if I manage to get through this without screaming like a girl, I'm going to claim it as an NSV. So let me pause this for the moment until it's flight time. Not much else is going to be going on. And I'll be back in a few minutes, or in your case, a flash of a second. Well, just found out that because of the weather, they may be delaying our takeoff for a few minutes or a little bit longer. Just depends on what the radar's showing. They're checking in right now. So I figured I'd do a little walk around tour of my plane. This one looks like a 4-seater, so it's definitely just going to be me and my lady in here.
Got it? Yeah. All right. Can you touch those pedals up there?
Why did you realize that was an interactive one?
Yeah, you're going to be flying.
I
need all the help I can get.
I was like, okay, so can we throw this in the back?
Yep.
Not fit the back one?
And if you want, you can slide over here. We can stay. It doesn't matter. Whatever's easier for you. All right, I'm going to close this door here. Oh, seatbelt.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, where is the I was looking at I was like, okay, I want to be strapped in so at least I'll die instantaneously in the plane. I have one too?
Yep. It's easier for us to communicate to each other. These headsets here.
You having to drown out my screaming?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like, he's going to scream like a girl, just so you know.
Alright. And yours is right under here. I'll put it on the seat. This comes out. So that's how we made a mess all over the place. Alright. Clear prop.
Go! No!
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's bad road.
Yep. Right on the low point. So I'll turn on the AC.
Wait, that's why it does not get pushed. Oh. Wow.
So after we landed and got back to our hotel, or got back to our bed, the Elysian Fields bed and breakfast, we had a 1:30 brunch date reservation set up, but it was still an hour or so before time to actually go to the brunch. So what we did was we thought we'd stop at another famous tourist destination, the Cafe du Monde, known for its beignets, which are basically little fried pieces of dough covered with about 10,000 pounds of powdered sugar. So we trekked on down there to the Cafe du Monde, but unfortunately when we got there, we could see the line of people waiting to get tables was several blocks long. And we figured it was going to be at least an hour standing there before a table would open up for us, and it was, you know, pretty close to our brunch date time anyway. So we just kind of walked around, fooled around on the different streets, just looking at things, went to the farmer's market, and killed time till about 1 o'clock. And then we wound up actually arriving at our brunch date, or our brunch reservation, right at 1 o'clock. And since it was our reservation was at 1:30, and these places are packed, if you want to eat brunch or eat dinner, eat pretty much at any of the nicer restaurants or the tourist destinations, you are going to have reservations. These places are small and they're crowded and everybody wants to get into them. So it's best to make these reservations several days in advance. Don't try doing it the day before like we did, and we had trouble finding a brunch date because or a brunch reservation because of waiting so long and not knowing exactly where we wanted to eat lunch or brunch. It was a really, really pretty little restaurant. I really love the way these places are kind of like holes in the wall. You'll walk past a pair of buildings and there'll be just a gate or a doorway between the two buildings, and if you happen to look inside, you'll notice a courtyard and a building set way back behind the courtyard. I don't know, it reminds me of something I would have seen on Spartacus, the TV series. I really wish I had a house with a courtyard like this. So, like I said, we got there at 1 o'clock, and they told us we had to wait till 1:30 for our table. So we made ourselves at home at the bar here, and I wanted to try another one of those hurricanes, but apparently hurricanes is trademarked by one of the local bars, and so they don't call it a hurricane there. They call it rum punch. So apparently a hurricane is simply a version of rum punch. So we made ourselves at home at the bar, and I had a nice big rum punch in a copper vessel. And of course I got hammered again, waiting for our table. And it's just a little bit of footage from the sitting at the table, just me looking around. And I had a frittata, which is basically a form of scrambled eggs, or if you want to call it an omelet. That's the top photo. And my girlfriend had chicken and waffles. She seemed to enjoy it quite a bit. It did not seem like a good combination to me, but she liked it. But I didn't want the fried chicken. I didn't want the breading. I didn't want the grease. So I stuck with a healthier option because I'd already overindulged with the calories from the rum punch. So I was trying to limit my calorie intake, but at the same time still enjoy myself. And after that, after the Cafe Millier, we just kind of strolled around the neighborhood, and apparently this is another one of the main tourist stops, the Tropical Isle, home of the hand grenade. It is a green drink. I think it's got grenadine in it. And I still hadn't recovered from the side effects of the rum punch, and here I was fixing to get a small hand grenade. They have two sizes, and fortunately my girlfriend suggested we go with the small. But they have their mascot out front. Sometimes there's a guy in the suit, sometimes there's not. And the interior of the place usually has, well, usually has a live band playing, and they have all kinds of weird stuff on the walls. This Amazon lady on the wall, and all kinds of drinks to choose from. It's just another bar that's fun and loud and colorful, and they have their signature drink, the hand grenade. So we had to try it out. And it was okay. I mean, it was green, it was fluorescent. It wasn't exactly my flavor. I'm not sure what grenadine tastes like, but it wasn't my taste. So I drank it anyway. I kept sipping because I wanted to stay drunk. And the next stop was to head on over to one of the local cemeteries. My girlfriend had told me so much about touring the cemeteries, and you know, New Orleans is famous for their above ground cemeteries, all the tombs and things. So it was quite a walk down there. It's probably at least a mile down there from where we were at the Tropical Isle. So see this view right here? Get used to it. That's what she set the mean pace. And once we got to the cemetery, we found out the hard way that recently New Orleans had passed an ordinance that there are no more self-guided tours in the cemetery because of vandalism and damage over time and people trashing the place out, camping out in the cemetery. They've started locking the gates. And so the only way to get into the cemeteries is with a certified guide or a guided tour. And so the gates are locked. So all we got was a look from the outside in. And after that, it was getting later in the afternoon, probably I would say around 2:30, 3 o'clock. So we thought we'd give the Cafe Du Monde one more try. We only had to stand in line for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. It is self-seating, so as soon as you see a table open up, you rush over to it and sit down. These tables are teeny tiny, and eventually the wait staff will notice that your table is empty, and they'll stop by and ask you how many beignets you want, or if you want a menu. And of course we had to order the beignets. I think we ordered a 3-piece beignet order. I didn't know how big they were going to be, and I knew we were going to be eating in another couple of hours anyway, so I figured I would just we would order the 3-piece, and my girlfriend would eat 2 and I'd eat 1. And they serve these things. They're about the size of my palm, and they have powdered sugar. And I had a little video of the noise and the excitement of being in the cafe. Tried to do a little shooting, and my girlfriend took a couple of pictures of me enjoying the beignets. And so we headed off again after enjoying the beignets. We still had a few hours to kill, didn't know really what to do. My girlfriend suggested we head back over to the first bar and get another hurricane. She thought I might like another hurricane, but really I had figured I had it between the rum punch and the hand grenade. I was pretty much, you know, done with alcohol for the day, and we had seen this little wine bar the previous day, and we happened to walk past it again, and I said, hey, why don't we just stop in here and do a wine tasting? Because I know how much my girlfriend loves wine, and of course she was like, yes, let's go get in there and get some wine. And so this was one of the highlights of her trip. On top of getting to fly and land a plane, she got to go to a really, really nice, cozy, I guess you would say upper crusty wine bar. We were sitting in there, and there was a group of 8 or 10 people who were obviously, I wouldn't say business leaders, but they were they were people who made quite a bit of money. They were talking about finance and mergers and business deals and buying a business. So this was a really high-end wine bar. But we ordered a couple of glasses of wine that were suggested by the, I guess, barista. My girlfriend was iffy about the two choices, and so I told her, the wine person, to give me the choice that my girlfriend didn't pick. This was the driest, bitterest wine I have ever drank. She loves her red wines, and she calls my favorite wine grape juice or fruit punch, because the stuff I get at Walmart is about $3 a bottle. It's super cheap, but I like the flavor of it. And finally, we're heading out trying to find some dinner. It was probably close to 6 o'clock by then, and when you walk around the streets, you see all the restaurants have their menus posted outside on the walls. And so my girlfriend was looking for something that was out of the ordinary, something that she wouldn't cook herself or find in, around her house where she normally eats. And we stopped outside of Dickie Brennan's Steakhouse. We went in, and of course it is a high-end steakhouse, and of course we had no reservations. All the tables were full, but we were given the opportunity to eat at the bar. You can sit at the bar and order appetizers, and they have a bar menu. And honestly, I can't remember what she ordered. And but what I ordered was called debris fries. It is little bits of steak that I guess is left over from their steak that they custom cut or something. But it was prime beef debris fries. So they take these French fries, cover them with this prime rib debris. Just the name debris, I had to have it. And they put mushroom gravy on it, and I think a little bit of cheese. It's hard to recall at this point. It's been so long ago, but it was a really pretty bar. They had some really high-end liquor, stuff that cost $25 a shot and up, depending on the brand. And these are my debris fries. They are very good, and my girlfriend stole some of them from me. I couldn't eat the whole platter. I probably ate 3/4 of the platter, and mostly I just ate the meat and the cheese and a French fry here and there. And what tour of New Orleans would not be complete without a ghost tour? And we got the bonus tour. It wasn't just a ghost tour, it was a ghost and vampire tour. Be sure and ask if you get the ghost and vampire tour when you go to your tour guide. We booked a tour. It happened to be starting approximately 30 minutes from when we got there, and of course it was not starting nearby. It was 7 blocks away, and we were off again. And unfortunately, our tour guide asked us not to do any videotaping, so each one of the tour guides are sort of like independent contractors, and they have to go through some type of certification to become a tour guide, and they also develop their own tours, but they tell the story based on their own research. From what they talk to the people who are in the hotels, they talk to the staff, they talk to the owners, they talk to anybody who's been around for a while and has experienced things, and they build their own custom tours. So you won't necessarily get the same story from 2 different tour guides taking you to the same buildings. And they kind of compete with each other for the best viewing spots on the street, because the tours happen, multiple tours happen at the same time. So there's quite a few times in the evening where we crossed paths with a competing tour group. So we were jostling for and moving fast to get the best spots to view the buildings. You stand outside on the sidewalk and look across at the building, and the tour guide explains to you what the history of the building is, what went on, and the experiences other people have had in the buildings, and if they've had their own experiences. Our particular tour guide had actually been into a few of the buildings, especially this hotel that you see behind her, and she had actually had an encounter with one of the spirits. And what What evening would be complete without a little bit of knowledge about the real estate for sale in New Orleans? If you'll notice on the sign here, this one lady advertises her rentals and buildings for sale, whether they're haunted or not haunted. We noticed this one sign that if you walk past it on one side, it says haunted. If you look on the opposing side, it has not haunted. And you'll notice these for sale signs or for lease signs here and there throughout New Orleans, and some of them will tell you whether they believe the location is haunted or not haunted. Well, that wraps it up for day 2. After the vampire and ghost tour, it was getting close to 9 o'clock, and so we headed on back to our bed and breakfast. So that's all for day 2 of my trip to New Orleans, land of 1,000 NSVs. Keep pimping that sleeve.